You are now listening to the Santos Says podcast, episode number 44. Here we go. I'm back for more. I want to invite everybody. First of all, everybody follow me on Instagram, Santos Thread Shop, as well as on TikTok, Santos Thread Shop. If you are watching this video on YouTube, please kindly give it a like, subscribe, share it, comment, the whole thing. I love the interaction. Please, good, bad, indifferent, it's all good, baby. Let's get the interaction. Let's start the conversation going. Of course, visit santos-threads.com. And away we go. Happy to be here once more with you guys. I want to invite you guys also. Make sure you follow me, Santos Thread Shop on Instagram, as well as on Santos Thread Shop on TikTok. So on this episode, I will have a guest. This guest right here on this show, I've been wanting to get you guys know that I've kind of done a couple different things. I've spoken to some politicians or aspiring politicians, people in public service. Traditionally, I've spoken to a lot of artists, entrepreneurs, so on and so forth. On this episode, I want to kind of take it back to the essence. I've been wanting to speak with a hip hop producer. It had never come to fruition. It was, we weren't able to really get it situated until right now. So I'm happy to have this guest who will be joining me shortly on this episode number 44. On this episode, I will be speaking with a producer who is all about really, I found him on social media on Instagram, and really he's worked with a ton of different artists. Obviously, I will let him tell it. But he is someone who is a Latino like myself. He is of Cuban descent. He goes by the name of Cee Da Cuban. And that is his name. He's a producer. I see him, his videos. He does all kinds of different things. He's there. You could see him mixing it up, doing his thing with his MPC, putting beats together, which I absolutely love when a producer, when you are a fan of music like I am, which I am an absolute fanatic of music, a fanatic of hip hop, etc. I love seeing, there's no greater thing to me besides obviously listening to the music, right? I love seeing the process, the creative process. I love seeing that creative process of the artist, the producer, the engineer, all those people, all those entities, musicians, whatever you may call it, whoever they may be. I love seeing that whole process come together. So one of the things that drew me to have Cee Da Cuban on here was seeing him. He's very transparent. He's one of those producers that he loves to show himself putting, creating the music in the process, in the lab, as they call it, right? Putting the music together. And so with that, I'm like, man, I got to have him on here, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about his career. We'll talk about maybe some of his musical influences, obviously. And he really preaches keeping alive that boom bap. I want to talk about really the state of hip hop, the state of boom bap in particular. Boom bap, which people know is that traditional up top New York / you want to call it New York, New Jersey, tri-state area, Northeast, East Coast, traditional sound. Just where we're at with that sound right now. And I want to get his takes on some of that, as far as where we are as a genre, and as far as this generation of that whole thing. And so I want to get that from him. And obviously I also want to speak to him, find out what he's up to these days, what he's working on, who are some of the artists he's worked with. He's someone who I don't know well personally, but I'm really looking forward to, and I'm excited for the opportunity to speak to him and get to know him, and really talk about that. So without further ado, my guest is here, producer, Boom Bap Hip-Hop enthusiast, hip-hop producer. I'll let him tell it. His name is Cee Da Cuban, aka Cuba on the beat. And without further ado, my guest, Cee Da Cuban.
Yo, what's good, bro?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good, Santos. How you doing, my brother?
StreamYard is a little tricky sometimes, but I'm glad that that we got you on. It happens sometimes. Trust
Oh, yo, bro, I don't give up. I just keep, you know what I mean? Like, you know how things are. Nothing is handed to you on a silver plate, man. You got to work for it. Everything you do. You got to, you know
me.
how it is.
Everything, bro.
Everything.
Everything. Even an
Yeah,
interview.
yeah, absolutely. So that's how it is, bro. You know.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And I was saying basically what I was saying before you came on. Um, I was talking a little bit about. I started talking about you, and I was just saying because I want you to tell your story. I want you to tell your story. I want you to tell the audience where you come from. What is your background? But I was just basically talking about how the way I found you was, on social media, that you actually were transparent about how you make your music, how you cook, right? It's like
Right.
you mentioned to me offline. A lot of producers just like, here's the beat. You never see the creative process, right? So I guess before you talk about that, your creative process and all that, tell everybody about where you come from and about Cee Da Cuban.
All right, that's what's up. I was born in Queens, so I'm from Queens, New York, and my upbringing was I was surrounded by hip hop from a very very early age. Like I went to grammar school with Kool Rap. I don't know if you're familiar with Kool Rap. Okay, but I just gotta ask. I
Yo,
just
come
gotta.
on, man.
All right, well
Who
I
do
just
you
got.
think I get it. Like I look,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not a little kid. I'm not old school,
Right, yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean I'm in that in between age. I'm 36. But
Okay.
like, come on. I know Coogee Rap inspired is like I say Coogee Rap influenced the whole New York City movement in the early to mid 90s. That whole mafioso rap. Coogee
Right.
Rap was the one who influenced that. Go ahead.
Nah, yeah, exactly. So I went to school with G Rap. Um, that whole area where I grew up in Queens. Herbie Lovebug, which produced Salt and Pepper.
Yep.
He lived in the neighborhood. Went to the same school I went to. Kwame, the genius. I know you heard of Kwame too.
Yep.
He went there as well. So I was just surrounded. Eric B was from the same neighborhood. Kid and Play, Salt and Pepper. It just don't end. So I grew up in that environment. I was always into hip hop. Even before then, because back in the days, my sister used to date a guy named Charlie, and he was from the Bronx. This is before like 80s hip hop. I'm talking about back in the 70s, early, like 75, 76. Well, he was dating my sister, and he used to come to my house, and he used to bring these tapes, and they was like dudes rapping, and I was like, yo, who is that? You know what I mean? And I was, and then little by little, he started telling me, yo, that's the Cold Crush Brothers, that's Charlie Chase, that's
Mm-hmm.
Grandmaster Cad, and they were always doing routines on these tapes. Like these tapes were not records; they were just, they never became records. They were just the way these guys expressed their hip hop style, the way they rap, their harmonizing and all that. So they went to tape. They recorded everything they did live to cassette. Before people were actually pressing records. You know what I mean? So then I started hearing these tapes, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then I saw the transformation from people rapping the tapes to the point where people started putting out records, and then radio shows started popping up on the scene, and they would playing the music and stuff like that. So it was like I was so surrounded by it, man. I couldn't avoid. I mean, I'm so into it, because I know a lot of people were introduced to it as well, the same way I was. But I just gravitated to it. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to get involved, and I wanted to do. I was a fan first before anything. You know what I mean? I just supported it. It was just something I loved.
It's interesting you bring up you brought up Charlie Chase, DJ Charlie Chase, and especially as a Latino,
Right.
obviously you being Cuban, myself being Puerto Rican. These are people. I feel like these are figureheads who we don't learn about always. You got to look for them, and I feel like they're overlooked. DJ
Yeah.
Charlie Chase was so important for the foundation of hip hop in that era where he came from. And I'm glad
Exactly.
you brought up Charlie. Charlie Chase is an absolute legend. I'm
Yeah.
glad you mentioned
Absolutely.
him.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's crazy. And so you had those influences. Obviously, you came from a neighborhood that you mentioned Coogee Rap. I mean, you mentioned obviously you mentioned um Eric B. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, like you mentioned all these different artists. So like, I guess my question for you is, at what point do you decide, hey, I could be a producer, or or were you one of those people who did you DJ first? Were you an MC before? Talk to me about like what was it? At what point was it that you decided, hey, I think I want to get into hip hop as in some capacity?
Well, when I went to school, we had a talent show, and I started writing a few rhymes here and there, and then they decided that they were going to have a talent show at school. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get down with this talent show. And then I started rapping in the talent show, and I had a good, I was received well. But I think the reason I was received well because the way I looked, I didn't look like I could spit, like I could rhyme, like I just
It was
had it.
different. Yeah, you didn't have the look.
Yeah, I didn't have to look for it. So when they saw me actually rapping, they was like, "Yo!" Like it surprised them that I was even rapping. That's the perception I got. Like they actually supported me. They were clapping, so it was good. You know what I mean? I got a positive reaction from the crowd. But I think they looked at it more like that because they didn't expect it. Like they didn't
Yeah.
expect that I was gonna, do that. So yeah, that's pretty much how I started. I did a talent show at school, and I kind of, started rapping that way. Then I actually signed a record deal back in 1990. I was signed to a label called Next Plateau Records,
Okay.
which is the label Salt and Pepper was on, Ultramagnetic. Who else there's an artist called Sybil. There was an artist back in the days called Antoinette was on there.
Yes. Yep. No internet.
Yeah, she was on that label too. So I did a record, but it wasn't a hip hop record. It was actually a hip house record. So it was like more of a dance orientated record. I was rapping over
It
it.
was the era. That was the era. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I did. So I did a record. It was a hip house record. And then we did one hip house record with the label, and we didn't want to kind of continue with the hip house thing because it kind of seemed like it was a fad. I mean, it was getting popular at a point, but then it kind of switched back to hip hop. You know what I mean? And I kind of
Yeah.
just wanted to do hip hop. And then at that point, we just, we wanted to do hip hop, and they kind of wanted us to keep doing the dance stuff. And I was
Of
like,
course.
yeah,
Of course. You know the label. Yeah, label. The label
yeah,
wanted that.
yeah. And I was like, you know what? I kind of don't want to do that. And then I just started messing around doing beats, and I did that for a few years. And then, like I said, I grew up in the neighborhood, of guys that I knew doing this hip hop stuff. And then one thing led to another. Next thing you know, I was going to sessions. A good friend of mine, his name is the Mighty Vic. He produced a lot of stuff. He was on Pun's first album. He did a joint called Boomerang on there.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so you know that record. Yeah, Mighty Vic did this joint called for Coogee Rap called My Life. He did
Oh, I
yeah,
love that song. Love that. He made a video for that. So I love that video.
yeah,
That was, I believe, on the Giancana story.
yeah, exactly. So my boy Vic, he's from Queens as well, and he's the one that did the hip house record with me as well. So
Ah,
yeah, we were doing records, you know what I mean? But then it's crazy because around the early 90's, we hooked up with Juju and Psycho Les. And then my man Vic started doing production with them. So he was like the unofficial third member of the Beatnuts.
mm,
And at that time, I was just rhyming. I wasn't really messing with any of the beats or anything like that. I was just like going to all the sessions, So I was at the early Intoxicated Demon sessions, and then there was a few Curious George sessions that we went through as well, because Vic did a few joints for him. He did the Uptown hit, and he did a Walk Like a Duck for Curious George. So I was going to a lot of those sessions. I was like in the background, you know what I mean? Absorbing all this stuff. And then I already had it in me, but I wasn't actually producing and making beats at that point. I was just absorbing everything like a sponge, just being in the atmosphere and able to attend these guys' sessions, and they were recording for labels. So I was just absorbing all that at the time. I wasn't really a producer per se at that time. That happened, years later. But it was always in me. You know what I mean? And I guess it opened more, and I got more involved when, we were doing a lot of physical stuff too, because I worked with with an artist named Nutso, and I do a lot of stuff with him as well. So we were pressing a lot of records and doing a lot of vinyl. And then when this whole social media thing just exploded, you know, Instagram and before that Facebook, then I guess I got more, you know, it became, I think a lot of us got more involved with it because now you didn't have to get approval for a label to say, yo, this guy is nice or I like his music, I'm going to sign him. Now you just put your stuff out.
Yeah.
And you put, and it's across the other side of the world in minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
yeah.
so it's different, yeah.
You could sell, yeah. That's one of the best things about now. Is like you don't even have to, you don't have to meet people. You don't have to be signed. Like everybody has become an independent contractor. Like, right? You
Yeah.
can just go. You could sell to someone. You don't have to speak the language. You got Google Translate. Like,
Yeah.
you could sell to, and hip hop is global.
Yeah,
So,
no excuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no excuse, man. You just got to put in the work. But, you know, some people, even with all the, you know, we had a lot of challenges back in the days. And the guys even before me had even more challenges because there was no internet. You know, it was a piece of vinyl. You pressed vinyl. You shipped it out. You had to pay for the postage, you know, all that. You had to press the record. You know, it's a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of guys now skip all those steps and they just send out an MP3 and it is what it is, you know? It's crazy.
That's the problem because I think you need to, like, when it comes to this thing called hip hop, right?
Right.
Or with anything, you need to pay attention to detail, and you need to you need to tie up all the loose ends. And there's no excuse for people want to cut corners.
Right.
And it's like you can't cut corners in this thing. Like you just can't. Like it's not. It makes you look bad. And I'm glad that you brought that up. How there's guys nowadays, as you mentioned, that just will send the MPC, right?
Yeah.
They didn't even properly. The file is not even properly. You know, it's
Mixed,
not
mastered, nothing.
mastered. Yeah, like it's crazy. And then they want to say, "Oh, I'm a producer." Like, no, you're not. Like, you're
Yeah,
not a producer. Like,
yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, now you know, and then these people, these big companies, take advantage of that because they make everybody feel like, yeah, you're a producer. We sell you this unit, or we sell you this program, and you could make your own beats, and you could make your own, you know, you could rap, and you could do this, and you could send it right off. This, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, because then what happens is they'll sign like a little, they'll sign some sort of agreement with them, little a deal with them,
right?
And they're not realizing that they're getting crumbs of the cake, while the label, right, or the company that has the right to it is getting the 96% or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever they're getting, and more. They're getting all the residuals from
Exactly.
everything. And it's like they're just happy with the check. They just take the little check they get because it's a steady check.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I
So,
guess they don't have the passion, you know, the drive and stuff.
yeah, for sure, and it's evident, obviously. So, getting back to you, so you got to this point where you're like, hey, um, you started, wanting to talk to me about how that started for you, as far as, okay, I'm not gonna rap anymore. Forget this, right? At some point, did you reach a point where you're like, all right, I'm not gonna rap. I'm putting the mic away. I used to rap too, by the way.
Okay.
That's the funny. Yeah, I used to spit. Like, I was a lyricist,
Okay.
but I found my calling afterwards. I didn't want to rap anymore. I became disillusioned with
Right.
it. But I still love it as a fan.
No, yeah, of course.
But like, at what point you said, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. What I'm gonna do is, I think I want to be a producer. What point did that come? At what point did that come for you?
Um, I want to say, me and a partner of mine, his name is Ron Mills. He works up at Sirius XM Radio, and me and him decided. We met one time on the train, and he was telling me what equipment he should buy, and should he buy this sampler. And at that point, I was buying samplers and drum machines and all that. So me and him kicked it, and then we decided to open up a studio together. So we built a studio. I had a carpenter come over and built a vocal booth for us. We raised the floor. We put all the foam up on the wall. We wanted to have that good acoustic sounding room. So we did everything we had to do, and then we used to rent the studio and actually make the music, and then rent it at the same time. And we figured if we were renting the studio, we'd be and recording with artists, then we can show them our music. So me and him used to produce together. I used to produce with someone else. Now I do it alone, but me and my partner Ron Mills, we used to produce together, and we used to make the beats together. So at that point, the thing was we built our own studio, and being we had our own studio, we had a lot of talent coming in and out of our studio, and then we would show them our beats. So that was in 93, 94 that I did that. We had our own studio. We did. So about 92, 93, I got real serious with the production. I started, getting into the production and making beats and, meeting with artists and trying to get them to rhyme on our beats and that type of thing. So like 93, 94, we got serious with the production, and we had the studio at the same time.
No, that's dope. I mean, and especially when you think about back then, what it was, right? Think about the equipment that was around back then, as opposed to what's around now.
Right.
Who it had to be pretty difficult just to put together production. Who were some of the, when you were coming up and you're learning how to you're working on your craft, you're learning how to become a producer. Who were some of the people you looked up to? Who were some of the producers that you listened to? You're like, hey, I could learn from that person, or who were those people?
Well, going back to my man, the mighty VIC, which is the third member of the Beatnuts, and Juju and Psycho Les, I was around those guys because they were in the studio recording. They were doing Pete Nice's album when Third Base when Third Base broke up. Psycho Les and VIC, the mighty VIC, they were working on Pete Nice's album when he was with Richie Rich because, Search and him broke up and they went their own ways. So then Pete Nice got signed and he got production from the Beatnuts, which was Psycho Les. And then Vic was there. He was doing a lot of the production. So I would go to a lot of those sessions, like the Curious George sessions as well. And Vic was there and Psycho Les was there and Juju. So I was always around those guys, especially when they dropped their first album. So that for me was, that was classic right there because I was right there when they was dropping it. You know what I mean? That was their start. That's when Juju and them first came out with their first. Well, the first thing they came out with was with the EP, which was the Intoxicated Demons EP. So when they did that, then I was going to a lot of those sessions. Same thing with Curious George when he dropped
that Relativity.
Yeah, exactly. They would sign to Relativity, at that time. And then Curious George was signed to Columbia, and I was going to a lot of those sessions as well. So that's when I was just like, oh wow. And also Power Rule. There was a few sessions with Power Rule and a few videos that he did back in the days as well. So Prince Power Rule, shout to him. So I was doing a lot. I was going to a lot of these sessions. You know what I mean? So that's where I kind of like picked up a lot of stuff, and I said, okay, you start saying to yourself, yo, this is possible. I could do this. You know what I mean? Like you're around this every day, and you see how it really goes down, and then you have a love for it because you gotta love it. You know what I mean? Like if you're thinking about getting in this and making a quick check and then leaving and doing something else, it's not happening, man. You got to put in work, man. I mean, you got to invest in equipment. I don't know how many samplers and drum machines and keyboards I came across over the years, and and then at the end it ended up becoming laptops and people making beats over laptops and all this. So I had to like really invest a lot of money and buy a lot of equipment. In my case, everybody's different, but in my case, to really find my niche, to see what I wanted to use. You know what I mean? And now everybody just, for the most part, people buy a laptop and they'll just piece things together on a laptop and they'll record it and that's their beat. You know what I mean? And I work totally different. I don't even want to make a beat on a laptop. Only thing I'm doing on a laptop is I'm done with the beat, we'll drop the beat to the laptop, then we're recording vocals. That's easier to shift things around when you're doing vocals.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah.
But I don't make any beats on a laptop. I mean, I came from the place where we used to have to record everything to a 2-inch tape. There wasn't even a computer. It's a big fat reel like that, cost like $200, heavy as hell. You got to carry it under your arm. It's like, it's a different story. From now with a laptop, you take a little piece here, take a little piece, you put it together. And I'm not knocking those dudes. Whatever works for them, hey, do what works for you.
That's what I was gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you your thoughts about that. But go ahead.
No.
When you're done, go ahead. You share your thoughts on those who you mentioned who make beats on a laptop or
Oh yeah,
by
bro.
that way.
Listen, you still get there. You know, it's just a different way to get there. But look, bro, this is what I love to use. This is just, I love this. You know, this MPC Live is like, yo, hands down to me. This is what I want to use. You know what I mean? And it's like a computer because it has a built-in screen. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a big screen, and then you can slide things around and do everything a computer does. So it is like a computer, but physical pads to me, you know,
Different. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the way. Yeah, and I have a great appreciation for people who are able to create in general. But I mean,
right,
more so when you have something like how you're doing it with the MPC. Obviously, the MPC is more of a pure form where you have the drum pads,
right,
right? You have the drum pads. You're able to do that and create your beats that way.
right, yeah,
So
yeah.
so so mentioning that, who were, I guess, like who were some of your favorite producers? Like who were the ones who you said, okay, I gotta, right? Like I'm a fan of this guy. I'm a fan of that guy. Like who were some of your top producers?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I gotta say Premiere first. I mean,
Premier, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, like that guy is like, I mean, everything he touches, like it's always like I don't know. I always gravitated to his music like instantly. Like everything he did, like for the most part, I just I was just like, damn, like he got me every time. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? So
yeah.
yeah, it would have to be Premiere. But before Premiere, I have to say, before there was no Premiere, for me it was Marley Marl, hands
Yeah,
down. It's
yeah.
Marley Marl.
Makes
Premiere
sense. Yep.
Premiere after, but Marley Marl first, because Marley Marl was, he was doing stuff when sampling wasn't even a thing. You know, back in the days in those 80s and I would say early 80s, those jams that you heard, they were live bands playing, and the dudes
Right,
was rapping
right,
over it.
right,
And
right.
yeah, and
The
then
park
Marley,
jams.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then or they were DJing, spinning back break beats and going that way. But Marley Marl was the first one to actually take a take a drum loop or whatever and start looping it over and over, and then adding stuff. You know what I mean? On top of that, on top of those loops, and he was using actual records, but he was using like little samplers even before the SP 1200 or MPC came out. I think he had like something called the Digitech. It was like a rack mountable sampler, and it only sampled for a few seconds. So he didn't even have
wow.
actual pads. He was using like these rack mount samplers, like a digit. I think that's what it was called. It's called the Digitech, if I'm not mistaken. And that's what he was using. So he was such an innovator with what he had to work with. He didn't even have much to work with. I mean, the records were funky that he was using, and he was using little bits and pieces of samples and just recreating them. You know what I mean? And then when you add a dope MC to it, that's like the missing element that's missing. You know what I mean, from your beat. Like a lot of people make beats and like, damn, it needs something else. It needs something else. I don't know what it is. Then once you add a vocal to it, it just takes a different,
Takes on a different life.
yeah. So I mean, it's amazing what Marley Marl was. Yeah, Marley Marl. Much props to Marley Marl. He really got it going with the sample. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
For
That's
me,
crazy.
he's the top one for me, man. Top Marley Marl.
Marley Marl. No,
Yeah,
listen. Yeah, you mentioned because there always has to be that pioneer.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like you mentioned before, previously, it was about the jams. It was about the beat breaks, right?
right, yeah,
That was what it was about. And and Marley Marl kind of took it to another level as far as incorporating different sounds
right.
stylistically, kind of setting the standard for what would come later, which then later on what you had was basically hip hop became sample heavy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
For the most part, hip hop now you can't, like, I don't, and again, I don't know, I haven't heard every single one of your beats, right? But most producers cannot put together a body of work without some sort of sample. Hip hop is probably alone in that regard as far as a genre
Right.
that requires a sample. The producer needs a sample of some sort to be able to put together a record.
Nah, yeah, absolutely. And it's harder now because now they get you quick. If you sample this and you sample that, they're on you. And especially if the record does well, they're gonna get on you. You know what I mean? But yeah, you need that source. Like, you need that source and to twist it around. But yo, there's so many records. Like, I'm gonna give you an example, and I don't know if you're gonna agree with this or not. I'm gonna give you the Rick James record, right?
Right. Go ahead.
That MC Hammer used. Don't touch this.
Yeah. Oh, yo, that one. Yeah. That was
Yo, whether you like MC Hammer or you thought he was a whack rapper or whatever you think, yo, that brother took that Rick James record to the next level. Some people
it took him to the moon. Yeah, it took him to the moon.
Yeah,
Super Freak. Yeah, Super Freak took him to the moon.
So, but listen, some people don't even know what Super Freak is. They're like, no, who's that? This is MC.
That's MC Hammer. They think it's MC Hammer, right?
Exactly. So that what I'm saying is what I want to say is that sometimes these guys can make a record even better than the original and take it there. Like Eric B. and Rakim when he did I Know You Got Soul, that James Brown record. That record is incredible to me. That I know you got soul, and it sounds just like that. That's how the James Brown record goes. But he took it to the next level. Like, I mean, if you're gonna kill a record that if you're gonna kill it in a way that you're gonna take it to the next level, mad props. Like,
Well, here's I look at it this way though. Let me see what you think about this. I look at it like this: if you're touching a James Brown record,
right?
If you're touching a Rick James record, if you're touching, let's say, a Curtis Mayfield record, right? Mm-hmm. You better do it justice.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Because if you don't do it justice, then it's just a footnote.
No,
it's not. You know what I mean? It's nothing significant.
And guys have done it. Look at OPP with the Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, they killed that.
Yeah. Jackson 5, yeah.
Yeah, the Jackson 5, because that was the when they were a group. Yeah, exactly. So
Kanye West. How many times have they flipped that sample? Kanye West flipped that for Jay-Z.
Yeah, exactly.
H to the Izzo was Jackson 5.
But they killed it though. Like, you gotta, they killed it, man. Like, you gotta give those dudes due. Even though these, there's a lot of like these lawyers and all that, they come after you, but
always
they gave life. They brung those records back, man. Like, they really.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was just about to ask you that. It's almost like a double-edged sword, right? Because it helps these artists. You see this all the time. Like, there were artists that nobody was checking for their music.
Yeah.
The sample that resonates for today resonates with people, and then it's like, oh, what was the original record? Let me check for so and so.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? But that's how it is. You know what I mean? But it becomes now, the sample stuff. So the clearance and all this. Everybody got their hand in the pot. So,
right. There's money involved.
Oh yeah, that's it. There's money. People turn into vultures.
Let me. It's so funny. It's true. Let me ask you a question. So who? I guess you as a producer, I'm trying to figure out what goes in the mindset, right? Because I'm not a producer, and I want to hear from you on this. When you're looking for a beat, when you're looking for a sample, I guess first, who's your favorite artist, if you have any, if you have one? Who's your favorite artist to look back in their archives and say, I love this for a sample? And two, how do you go about choosing a sample?
Okay. Well, I got a few people that I look back into, I mean, shit. Pete Rock and C.O. Smooth, that they reminisce record was like incredible to me. Like, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people feel that way about that record. It was just
yes.
The emotion behind it, the sample they used.
It's a vibe. It's a vibe, man.
Yeah, that whole vibe. Yeah, that was incredible to me. Like, that record. I was always a big fan of Bismarck. And you know why I loved Bismarck so much? Not only did I like his music, and Marley Marl was behind Bismarck, all of Bismarck's earlier records, but what I liked about Bismarck was that there was no rules in that guy. Like, he did it the way he wanted to do it, and he didn't follow no blueprint. Sounded like himself, and he was just like, people say he was like the clown of hip hop or whatever you want to call it. I think that dude was in a class by himself. You know what I mean? Like,
there was a uniqueness with Bismarck. I feel like hip hop has lost that essence.
Yeah.
With the corporation now, right? The machine. I feel like they're trying to find the next thing that sounds like the last thing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like you had Bismarcky. Bismarcky's different. You have Rakim. Rakim is unique.
That's
Big Daddy Kane was unique. These guys were all different.
yeah.
KRS, class by himself. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah, they were all different. They were all different. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So and the other side, the question you're saying is, let me just put
yeah.
this. It looks like it's drizzling over here now.
Uh-oh. We don't know. We can't mess that machine up.
Yeah, I got another one too. I use this one because this one is portable too. So sometimes I come out on the balcony and I just, especially with this whole pandemic thing, the last 2 years, and people weren't working. People, you know how it was. I was out here and I was just like in my own world, like I mean, it affected everybody, but I felt like I found a certain, I don't know. I think I really found my niche during the last 2 years, and it's kind of messed up because a lot of crazy stuff happened this year. You know what I mean? A lot
Of
of people
course. Yeah. Yeah.
passing away, and it's crazy. Sometimes I feel bad even saying that I found my niche, but there was something that happened in these last 2 years that it really, I don't know. I found myself musically.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know.
You were able to find inspiration at a time where things became chaotic in the world, right? You were able to find your space to kind of
Absolutely, and I don't know how because a lot of people that I spoke to were like, "Man, I haven't been able to make a beat. I have no inspiration." And I used to talk to them. I was like, "Yo, we got to inspire each other." Because I'd go on and if I don't have inspiration, sometimes I'll start listening to some stuff from the '80s or '90s, and you just kind of, you know how music is, man. Like you could feel a little down, and you start listening to some music, and all of a sudden you feel a little like, it brings you up. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it definitely music does. It could be Spanish, salsa, Hector Lavoe, whatever it is. You know what I mean? And you get into it. So music it has a way of bringing you up. You know what I mean? So I even if I didn't feel like making a track, I always push myself to listen to music and try to get inspiration and then boom, then try to create. You know what I mean? Sample stuff, even if I wasn't going to use it. But let me play with something that's very popular, just to get the feel of how it was created and kind of try to place myself there. You know what I mean? For that
Yeah.
inspiration. So I try to do those things to get me going.
Yeah. No, listen, I totally respect that. And look, everybody's different too. Like everybody's brain works different. You know, the pandemic was really rough for a lot of people, right?
Nah, it was.
And I think it could either make you or break you. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but I mean it in a disrespectful sense. I just mean that we all deal with things different. Some people they may need some downtime to kind of they don't have inspiration. Other
Right.
people may find inspiration. You may have been able to find yourself in that time where you're like you found some inspiration in that time, in that solitude, right?
Right. No.
And so that's a great thing that you were able to find that.
Yeah. No, I
Uh,
was trying to. I was trying to. I think also I was trying to block out what was happening. What was going on. It was crazy. So you try to block your mind and keep yourself busy. And I think that's what I was kind of doing at the same time, like trying to like a little scapegoat from what reality was. Because bro, I wasn't watching. It got to the point that I was never big on watching news anyway. But once they would post is number of cases,
Oh
number of
my God, that was
I,
horrible. I
yeah, I had,
couldn't watch it.
yeah, I said, yeah, I couldn't even watch that either. I was like,
It was depressing. You couldn't watch it.
yeah, yeah, and it's not to listen. I never, I mean, I don't agree with everything that's going on, but I never said this wasn't real. That you can't get
No, it's not to
sick.
downplay, right? It's not to
Yeah, yeah,
downplay it.
yeah, yeah. Because you could get sick. I mean, I got really sick. So I can vouch for it. It's real. It's real.
Yeah,
I'm lucky to be here having this interview with a good brother like you, my brother Santos. Because I
I
went
appreciate
through it.
that.
I went through it, my brother. Ooh, I went
Oh, so
through it.
you had gotten, so you had gotten COVID.
Yeah, bro. I was in the hospital. Everything, bro. I got it.
Sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that you're here.
Oh
You
man,
got through it.
I don't. Yeah, man. God bless, man. Because at the same time, I work with an artist named Nutso, and K Slate does this thing called 200 bars. He has
God bless the dead.
Yeah, God bless.
I had
Yeah,
to say, because K-Slade, God bless. Yeah, he died recently, and yep.
yeah, man. K Slade was a good brother, and he was essential, man, because nobody like him. He would take dudes that wasn't signed, dudes that didn't have no cosign or were really big in the game, and he give them a platform, and
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they know they're not too many dudes like that. Like you, I can see you do that, which is a beautiful thing, because not too many people do that. They just follow what's popular, and they don't like DJs. They don't even break records anymore, bro. They just
Nah, no.
yeah, they just follow whatever is hot at the moment or whatever got views or whatever. They don't really sit down and say, "Yo, this guy might not have 100,000 views, but he got some shit. Like he's decent, or I like his stuff." And not too many people are doing that anymore. And K Slade was one that was at a certain level. He had a show on Hot 97, Street Sweeper, Drama King. He had the show at Sirius. And yo,
Serious.
he would invite people up to do stuff. So my man Nutso, which I work with, an artist from Queens, he was K Slade called them and called me maybe like I want to say in April or May of this past year to connect with Nutso because he wanted to get him on the new 200 bars videos he was doing. So I got on the phone. We were talking. Yo, Nutso's gonna meet you here. We're gonna get it done. So we got it done. Unfortunately, he got sick around the same time I did, November,
Oh,
December. So when I was in the hospital, I had no idea that he was sick. When I got out the hospital and I was home recovering, then I heard he was sick, and then I heard he was in there for like a few months. So I was like, oh
wow.
wow. And then next
Man.
thing I know, he passed. I was like, wow. Rest in peace,
Oh,
K Slade for sure. Yeah, man, that was a hard one because he wasn't your regular man. He was out there to help people. I,
he
you know,
was he was cut from that cloth.
he was, he
Like
was.
he was hip hop. Like he
Yeah,
believed in talent. He believed in the hood, representing from the
yeah.
hood and bringing the talent. He wasn't about the politics, the industry politics
No, no,
at
no.
all.
He definitely. And then he repped graffiti because that's where he came from. He's from the
Right.
graffiti age, yeah. You know, so he was a graffiti artist before anything. He was in Style Wars, that classic movie that came back out in the '80s that everybody knows about. Like, I mean, that guy was yeah. But it's like you said, to going back to what you said, he was cut from a different cloth because that's where he came from. Before internet, before anything, he was about a dude that would see a talent, hear a talent, come here. I got a platform. I want you on this. Like that doesn't happen anymore. It does happen, but very few guys are doing it. You know what I mean? The very very
I
few
my
guys.
hope, no, 100%. My hope is that his legacy, we can continue to bring, kind of uplift each other and kind of bring that legacy, continue to live by that legacy and kind of just carry it out and do the same thing. Kind of like other people have to carry that load now because there are very few like that who come from that foundation. We have to carry on that tradition of, hey, we're all from different hoods, but we're from the
Mm-hmm.
same sort of story, right? From the inner city, from the neighborhoods of the city. We have to lift each other up and kind of pass that on and you know what I mean, and give other people a shot. Give people a shot that who deserves to be heard and seen.
No, and absolutely. That's why the game is like sometimes it's a little kind of lopsided for that reason because there's not a lot of that going on. You know what I mean? Like people are not really, And I'm not saying for people to hold your hand. I'm not saying if you're putting in the work, then you know it should be recognized. Like somebody should really step up and be like, "Yo, my brother is really putting in this work, and I want to give him if I could give him a platform or a beat, or I can spin him on my radio show. I could get him on my podcast. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? So I think, but that's what's missing. I think that's what really like people are following too many trends and following too many other things. It's just not the same. I guess we come from that. You know what I mean? We come from that hood. That hip hop style and hood. That's how it was. You know what I mean? People really dug for music and wanted to see what was the next hot thing, and they didn't follow what mainstream was doing. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So it's
yeah.
like,
It was always about hip hop came up as a counterculture.
right.
Hip hop now is on a mainstream level, obviously you have people who are making good music. Obviously, a producer such as yourself. You mentioned Nutso. Several are. I mean, we can name a bunch of them, but I'm saying on a mainstream level, hip hop became corporate. The corporation got its hands on it, and in essence, it became a cookie cutter. It's not counterculture anymore. Hip hop. I tell people all the time, hip hop now on a mainstream level is pop. It is the popular genre.
Nah, yeah, exactly, yeah. And I thought I was gonna get a lot of like with the stuff I do, like I'm more on the boom bap side of things, and I could do the trap and I could do like different type, but I don't know. I just gravitate more towards that type of music, and I love when I get comments from guys in the industry like, yeah, like yo, keep that shit going. That's what I love,
Yeah,
and I and I like that. That's good to see that people are still wanting to hear it, and it's in them. You know what I mean? It's something you can't erase. Like
yeah.
that type of like that boom bap. You know what I'm saying? But I'm
You
not.
mentioned. I'm
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So you mentioned boom bap because that's another reason. Obviously, that's the big reason why you're here, because obviously I come from that school. That to me is hip hop in its purest form, and so I'm always going to gravitate towards the boom bap. That's just what it is. So obviously that's why I have you here, because you are a producer and you are a producer of, and I'll call you a flag bearer of boom bap, right? The pure hip hop form.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What do you think has happened to boom bap? What has went wrong on a mainstream level to boom bap, and can it be saved?
Um, I think yeah, no, it could definitely be saved. I mean, because guys like us, in our age and our culture, like we still you hear it and you're like, damn, like you still gravitate to it. You hear something and you're like, oh my god, you gravitate. And then also the oversaturated of the other side of the music, which is like the trap and stuff. Like a lot of people were like, and I heard, yo, listen, I've heard some really good trap records. I can't knock them all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, of
I've heard
course.
some real good ones, but then there's a few of them that I heard like I don't know, like people go crazy with them, but they just I don't know. I can't understand what the guy's saying. You know what I mean? But then he's talking to a different audience. You know what I mean? So maybe
That's right. That's right. That's the part that we lose sight of sometimes. And I agree with you, but he's talking to a different audience. Yes.
yeah. And then people say, oh, but I never got into this conversation with anybody that younger or any trap artist because I would never like come out and straight up and say, oh, I don't like this or I don't like this, because I do like some of it. I'm not gonna tell you I don't like it all. There's some that I don't like, but I'm not. It's not my opinion that counts for me to tell them, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. Same way they shouldn't be telling me I'm too old to be doing this. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
you're an older guy. You're from the '80s and the '90s. Your culture's over with. Like, and I don't look at it like that, bro, at all. If you could see legends like Gene Simmons from Kiss and this guy from the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger,
Right.
still touring in their 70s, bro.
That's right.
You're
Yeah.
not you're not telling me nothing.
Right. Right.
You're not telling me nothing. For real,
Yeah.
for real. You're not telling me nothing.
That's
So
a good point. That's a good point because you know what? Yeah, I think hip hop does have a stereotype. They do stereotype hip hop as a genre that it's a young man's game, but and I kind of hate that stigma, and I want that stigma to continue to be taken down because it's not fair. Because I feel like we put down a lot of our legends, right? To say, oh, you too old to be rapping. KRS is too old to be rapping. Or who's this guy to be rapping? Oh, is he gonna? How long is he gonna be rapping? No, like
yeah,
none of that. Like you don't got to be a 20-year-old to be rapping. Like if you do it well, there's two things. You either make good music or your music is trash. That's it. Doesn't matter how old you are.
yeah, absolutely. I agree with what you're saying. It doesn't matter if it's good stuff, then it's good stuff. It doesn't matter that there's no age in it. So why, but a lot of these guys tend to put age in it. They take it there. Oh no, that you're too old to do this or whatever. I mean, honestly, I haven't gotten that because I don't bring that energy to people. Like if you're
Right, right.
yeah, if you're happy doing what you like to do, then I'm never gonna knock you. Same way that I don't get, they don't give me that energy because I never give off that energy. You know what I mean? So I guess it's just different when it comes to everybody. Everybody's, you know, different, and everybody has their own thing. So, you know, I don't try to crush anybody's dreams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. No, you shouldn't. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So one of the questions I have for you also now, you on a, I guess now on the personal tip, right? Since you're from New York, right? So you said you're from New York. You grew up in Queens.
Right, right.
You are of Cuban descent, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How did you end up in Queens?
Okay, well, my parents left Cuba in 1966, and they came. It was I got a sister, so my sister at the time was 1 year old, and they didn't want. My parents didn't agree with what was going on in Cuba at the time, you know, and they just decided that they wanted to leave and they wanted to come to New York, and they came. First, they came to Jersey because my mother's aunt lived in Jersey, and she was like, "Yo, come to Jersey. We out here. We, you know, they had come like 2 years ahead of time, so she was like, "Yeah, come out here. You know, we're gonna get it together." And then they came out here maybe for a few months, and then my dad decided, yeah, you know, he got a job, and then he ended up in New York. Next thing you know, we're in Queens, in Astoria, Queens, and then we ended up in Jackson Heights, Queens, which is like near LaGuardia Airport. I don't know if you're
Yeah,
familiar
yeah,
with
yeah,
that
yeah.
area. Yeah, so then
Definitely.
it was really my parents, but they originally came from Cuba. I was born in like 2 years later here in Queens. So I'm, you know, my both of my parents are Cuban, but I was born in Queens, in New York. You know what I'm saying? So
Nice,
yeah, my sister was the only one that was born in Cuba, but you know, they came and I was born here.
nice, nice. No, I mean it's a rarity because I had the opportunity to speak with um I think I told you offline. I spoke with, obviously, I spoke with Cuban Link in the past. I
Okay.
also spoke to Don Dinero. Don Dinero was telling me about the Cuban New York experience. And
Okay.
I found it very interesting because there's a lot of history there that people don't know that's untold. The Cuban New York experience, a lot of it though actually started in Washington Heights. So it was
Right.
very, right? So it was very, I didn't know if, I didn't know, before our discussion, I didn't know if you were from there. That's why you mentioned you were from Queens. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I definitely came. My parents came straight to New Jersey, and from Jersey, a few months later, they went into Queens, and then yeah, we just stayed in Queens. But a lot of them end up in Florida. I thought I was going to end up in Florida because
Yeah, 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 yeah.
a lot of the Cubans is in, they go straight from my Cuba to Florida. That's 90 miles.
Right,
That
right.
that's where they went. But nah, yeah, we ended up in Queens. So yeah, that's. But it was good, man. I had a good uprising, you know, with my parents, great parents. You know, my dad passed away a few years ago. God bless. And
Sorry to hear that. God bless. Yeah.
thank you, man. But yeah, man, it's been good, man. It's been a good ride. If I wouldn't change anything, man. I'm glad I landed where I landed. I'm glad I was born when I was born, because I mean, this golden era of hip hop, and to experience that, man, that, you know, that's something that's once in a lifetime. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, you came up right in the heart of it, right in the middle of
Perfect.
all of it.
Yeah, it's perfect, man. I love it. Yeah, that's something that I don't regret. You know what I mean? That's a beautiful thing, honestly.
Definitely. So before we wrap up, I just want to let me know, tell people where they could find you, and also let everybody know what you're working on now. What's next for you? What's next for Cee Da Cuban?
Okay, you can find me at Cee Da Cuban, and that is on IG. So it's CeeDaCuban. At Instagram, I'm on TikTok, same thing, at Cee Da Cuban. I'm on Facebook, same thing, at Cee Da Cuban. And I'm working on a project now. It's actually going to be released in June. It's with an artist, uh, a legend from Spain. His name is El Mesui. And Nutso and him did a Spanglish album, which features Thurston Howell, Black Poet, Comet, Rob P. What's As far as artists concerned, that's it. I did like 5 tracks on there, and Mesui did a few tracks. Nutso did a few tracks. Um, we got Killer Jameson Killer. He's the one that mixed and mastered it. That that album is coming out in June. So it's a Spanglish album. We got a few tours going on now in Mexico and in Argentina. So we got a few things going on. That's gonna come out in June. It's called La Mente. So we mixing in English and Spanish on there. So we hit
Nice.
yeah, we're hitting them from both angles. So that should be out in June. If you want to get that, the link is on my Cee Da Cuban Instagram page. So I'm working on that, and I got like various. Probably got a project with my man Nutso. We working on a few tracks. Just various projects that we're working on. I got another artist that I work with. His name is Witchcraft. We did a joint called Cuban Sandwich. That's out now. You can
Nice,
follow.
nice.
Yeah, you can follow that at Witchcraft WHICH Craft at Instagram. And yeah, man, just working. There's so many artists I'm working with now. It's just like crazy, man. But it's good. I met so many people online. You know, we gravitated on there. So IG is a good platform. You know what I mean?
Great. Nah, it's a wonderful thing.
Nah, yeah, definitely. People, you know, you could get like quick exposure on there. It's amazing, man. But yeah, that's it. We just rocking out, man. I appreciate you having me, Santos. I love what you're doing. I always catch up on your shows on YouTube. You definitely interview. You got some good questions, bro. I'm glad you do your homework, bro. And I like that. You do your homework, bro.
Nah, listen. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, you do your homework, man. I mentioned a name, you like, bang, like you know that makes a good conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, I have to do my home. There's so many, man. Look, not to throw shade on people.
No.
There's a lot of whack shows. You gotta start confiscating some mics. So
Yeah,
I just say,
yeah,
a good guest like, listen, a guest like you makes the show. So I'm happy to have you. It's mutual.
Thank you. Yo, we got stories, bro.
Yeah, definitely. We'll catch up again. I really we'll keep in touch.
Nah, yeah, for sure.
We could go forever. So
yeah, I know me and you could talk. I know that.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, brother. No, thank you so much. Thank you for being on.
Thank you, bro.
Stay dry. Because I think it's raining. So
this table's kind of wet.
yeah. I hear you. There you go.
I don't know if you see it, but
I can see it. Yeah, for sure.
It's wet out here. It's getting wet out here. But no, I'm good. I'm on a techo right now, but the water's like, I guess, just spraying around.
Yeah. I hear you. All right, man. Cee Da Cuban. Check him out. Santos. Thank you so much. All right, my brother. Be safe. Peace,
you
man.
Too. Peace.
So that was Cee Da Cuban, man. That was awesome, man. We could have went in so many different directions. I'm definitely gonna keep in touch with him. I want you guys all to follow him on social media. We'll have all the links will be in the description and of course on the episode. And that was episode number 44. Everybody follow him on social media. Check him out. He's got some good music coming out as well. Support that real hip hop. Support is very important. Support that real hip hop. It's important that we preserve it as a culture, as a music, as an art form. Super important. So I want to thank him. Thank my guest, Cee Da Cuban, of course. Queens representing. Of course, also make sure to follow me. Instagram, Santos Thread Shop. TikTok, Santos Thread Shop. Of course, the YouTube channel, the Santos Says Podcast. And of course, as always, don't just say what you mean or mean what you say. Say it with your chest. Peace.